Hey, we'll see you in Ashland, Virginia, and Athens, Georgia, and Rutherford, New Jersey, and Minneapolis. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. So people have asked me, why did you quit smoking pot? And how is your life different? Well, I really don't know why I quit smoking pot. I have a firm belief that my urge to quit smoking pot came from my unconscious. My unconscious was ready to break through. I've been doing a lot of work getting in touch with my unconscious, my collective unconscious, my transpersonal self. Other people would refer to that as God. That all is inward work. I never used to understand what people meant by that when they would say that that's inward work, that God is inside, not God is not external. But I know what that means now. Because I've had, since I quit smoking pot, so I quit smoking pot, and it got me more in touch with my unconscious. And I do that, you could do that several ways. One of the ways is through your dreams. People dismiss their dreams, which is a mistake. It's just another form of consciousness. And you're tied to a collective unconscious, meaning that we have consciousness that's not just our own, that is tied to every other human in the world that lives right now and has ever lived. That sounds like a big statement, but it's true. And the reason how I know this is true, since I quit smoking pot, I've had encounters with images in my dreams that I have no idea how I would know about them. So there's one, so when you meet God, God comes in many faces. One of them is, for a male, the old man, the wise old man. Now, I never, so I had this encounter in my dream with this wise old man, and I was angry at him because he was telling me I had to do something I didn't want to do. And when I read about it, this is common. Carl Jung talked about this, that meeting this person, and they've got, I'm reading the Book of Symbols. They've had different symbols for when you meet your transpersonal self or God or the divine or the collective unconscious in your dreams. I've also met what they call Mithraic gods. So I had this dream where I met this person looked like an ape, but its head was like half lion, half human. And it was a very, I didn't know what the dream meant at first, but then I did some interpretation with a Jungian analyst over it. And I was reading a book, and it had a picture of what they called the Mithraic god. And I'm like, that's the image that was in my dream. That's that image. And it's in a book. Well, I never read this book before. How would I know to have that image come in my brain? Well, that's because we're all connected to a collective unconscious that stretches back to the beginning of time. And so that was another face of God. So I've had these transcendent experiences where I've encountered the divine, and it's been very meaningful. It's given my life instruction on really pressing issues and problems. And as Carl Jung says, your biggest problems can't be solved. They can only be outgrown. And again, I don't know how to explain that to you until you experience it, but I've experienced that. And so, I used to be an atheist. I brought up Catholic, and my atheism was a response to me rejecting religion and dogma, which I still do. But now I realize that there's way more going on than just this level of consciousness that we're aware of in our waking life. And I know that because I have experienced the divine. And I've experienced the transcendent, and I see it now everywhere. Once you start to become aware of it, I see it everywhere. I know that there's the consciousness that I'm aware of is a very small part And, every encounter with God or the transpersonal self is a defeat for your ego, meaning your conscious ego, what you're aware of, who you think you are, the personality you've developed. It's a very tiny part of who you are. The greater part of you is in your unconscious, in our collective unconscious. And so, yes, that's how am I different since I quit smoking pot? I've had that. I've had transcendental experiences where I've experienced the divine and realized that I'm a part of something much greater and bigger, and that I'm not really in control, and that the most I can do is I can surf. So if we're all consciousness, which is what we are, everything you see in this world is just the crest of a wave of consciousness. Everything is consciousness, right? So I heard a physicist explain it like this, that when you're in a plane and you look out the window and you're over a body of water, you see white lines, that's a crest of a wave. But you can't see the waves, and those white lines come from that ocean or big body of water. Well, look at it as that body of water is consciousness. And the crest of those waves, that white line, that's the part we see. So we see the crest of consciousness, the crest of the waves of consciousness. We don't see the consciousness that underlies it, or the ocean that we're all connected to. The wave is part of the ocean. So is the crest of that wave. And that's the part we're experiencing. And so that's when, you've heard philosophers say there is no separation. Separation is an illusion. Also, death is an illusion. Well, death happens to this physical body, but that's not the opposite of life. Your life doesn't end when your physical body dies. Death is the opposite of birth. Life has no opposite. You are eternal, whether you like it or not. And there's no getting out. And your job, or as I see it, is to make the unconscious conscious, make that conscious. Eckhart Tolle would say your job is to become awakened. What awakened to that fact? That's what I would say. I would add that. I've seen him, that your job here is to become conscious. Well, that's another way of saying making the unconscious conscious. And becoming aware, or having a greater understanding of who you really are. And it's not your personality or your ego-centered idea of who you think you are. You need your ego to get through life, to drive the car, to defend yourself. But that's a very small part of who you are. And the greater part of who you are is connected to the collective unconscious, a collective consciousness, is connected to, dare I say, a God, which Carl Jung refers to as your transpersonal self. I know in this era it sounds like trans, but it's not. It means your non-personal ego-connected self. There's a greater self that you are connected to, and that's God. And so, how is my life different since I quit smoking pot? Well, I've had a personal experience of the transcendental divine. I realize that I'm an eternal being, and that the person I think I was is a very small part of who I actually am. So, not much other than that. Not much. Now, a lot of people have different... The weird thing is, too, is I don't have a desire to smoke pot. I smoked pot daily, I would say, since probably, 2004. I didn't start smoking pot till late in my life, like in the late 90s. And I got no qualms with it. I'm not angry at marijuana. It served me. I enjoyed it. And I don't miss it. That's the weird thing, is I don't miss it. And so that's why when it was time for me to drop it, I just dropped it. And again, it was like I wasn't making the decision. The decision was being made for me, and it was coming through me. And I encourage everybody to keep a dream journal. You see patterns. If you keep it for long enough, I've been keeping a dream journal now for at least 5 years, 4 years, or 5 years. And you see patterns. You see, oh, now you remember a dream. You understand it more. You understand it better. It informs you about lots of things, the least of which is who you actually are. Okay, I just thought I'd share that with you because people are always asking me, why'd you quit smoking pot? How are you different? So there you go. And may I go back to smoking pot? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'll have the urge to smoke pot again someday. I don't think pot is a negative, bad thing. It was a good thing in a lot of ways for me. It helped me get in touch with the creative side of myself. It helped me become, to actually sense some emotions that I didn't sense before. It gave you a deeper perspective on certain things. And so it really wasn't a detriment to my life. It wasn't like, boy, if I wasn't smoking pot, I could have, fulfilled my dreams as a comedian. I did that. I fulfilled my dreams as a comedian. I came to Hollywood. I became a headliner in the Improvs. I got a Comedy Central specials. I sold a book. I never even dreamed that dream. Alex Murray dreamed that dream for me, my old manager at Brillstein. So anyway, and now I get to tour to sold out rooms and theaters all over the world, not only in the United States and Hawaii, but in Canada, and in Europe, which was surprising as hell, and hopefully soon in Australia. So, yeah, I don't have any bad things to say about marijuana. I'm just letting you know that there came a time in my life when it was time for me to let it go. Hey, we're doing stand-up in Ashland, Virginia, Athens, Georgia, Rutherford, New Jersey, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Ontario, California, Irvine, California, Las Vegas, Davenport, Iowa, Chicago, Grand Rapids. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and make sure you go to jimmydore.com and don't go to a second reseller. Not good.